I finally got to the job of moving these raspberries. Been wanting to do this since I first came on this plot, and it's taken such a long time to get to this stage because they wouldn't let me cut that hedge. Oh, there's birds nesting in there, and there weren't any birds nesting in there. Then there might have been one something in that tree. So I've had to wait a long time to get this hedge right to the end, all along here. And excuse my own shadow, but yeah, it's all done 20 something meters, so we'll be able to get about 40 raspberry canes in along this hedge, and then I can cut the raspberries and cut the hedge at about the same time, and then cut the hedge in the summer before the raspberries gets too high, and then once again when everything's dormant in late autumn, early winter, I can give the hedge another trim. And I've got everything lined up so that once the raspberry canes are in, I can mulch over them quickly, and I don't have to keep running backwards and forwards to the wood chip pile. So I've got a lot of this greener stuff, which has got lots of green leaves on it. So this is going to go first, and I've got a lot of this woody stuff. This is going to go on the path between the hedge and the raspberry bed. Let's start by digging up some raspberries and checking on them. I'm not going to replant all of them. I've already given some raspberries away to other plot holders for them to plant on their own allotments, and still have too many plants. I will select only the best plants to move. I'm looking for young, healthy plants, preferably new runners, with a good, healthy root structure. This older cane is no good as it has lost its roots, so it's not a good candidate for replanting, but the ones next to it are good candidates. I dig around the plant with a fork and lift the plant's roots together with the surrounding soil. There will inevitably be some broken roots, but lifting them this way helps minimize root damage. It takes longer than using a spade to cut through the roots, but I get better results using a fork. Digging up the whole root ball with big roots means that the plants establish quicker than ones with short roots that have been cut with a spade. One could heal them up in a pot till one's ready to plant them. I will dig them up a few at a time and replant the same day, so they won't be out of the ground for long. Obviously when I've dug them up, it comes up with other weeds and stuff, but we can get rid of that. Nettles coming up. There's nettle roots stuck between all this lot, so grass roots. So I need a bit of really two hands to do this job, but yeah, once I've sorted that out, got a nice root ball. I think that's two plants rather than one. So that's the first part. Now to get on with the planting, and that's what the root ball looks like. If I can use that as a background. So I can plant that and cut this about 10-15 centimeters. That hopefully give me raspberries next year. I don't think they'll give me much this year. And looking at it, one side is dead and the other side is budding out, so you can see different colours. Another advantage of having raspberries by the hedge is that when I cut the hedge, I can just chop and drop and mulch the raspberries. So all I've got to do in spring is add a bit of manure to the raspberries, chop and drop these hedges to mulch the raspberries. So that appeals to my lazy side. We have that gap between the hedge and the side of the shed, so that's going to be the width of the border, but obviously allowing a bit for the hedge to grow. This area where the bricks are, that was where the old carpet and rotten stuff was, so I'm not planting there. So that's the edge, and that's all going to be containers and things. So the first raspberry is going here, and then we'll just take that line and just follow it through right to the other end and plant all the raspberries. Now it might be a bit fun because obviously there will be the roots of some of these privet, and then I've got all these stones that used to mark the edge of the border all the way along, so they're going to get in the way because some of them have sort of leaned over the years. and they're a bit further than they should be, and they'll be getting in my way, but that's life. Now down there we're hitting solid bricks and stones, and it's difficult to, I'm not going to dig them out because I think they're actually holding this soil back from falling down into the next plot, which is lower down. Fortunately they don't need to be planted that deep down. Yeah, this hole is deep enough for that. This branch is in the way, but that's alright. Just need to move it that way a little bit. All I'm going to do is add about a cupful of rod fish and bone to the hole and put the soil back, holding this, making sure that this is not leaning too far. Throwing that in as I go. So this has been planted at the same depth as it was before, but obviously we don't want the newly planted plant to support all this at the moment till it gets established. So we cut it about 10-15 centimeters from the ground. And this is now firmed in, and you can see this bit is green, that bit is brown, so it looks dead, but this was obviously live and green. So we'll have to leave those for another year, I think, before we get any fruit out of it. If it was a dry day, then I would water these in, but it's starting to rain now, so don't have to worry about that. Just try and get as many in as today as possible before it starts to rain properly, and then another day I'll come along, add a bit more fertilizer and mulch this, and then they'll be done. Now repeat 40 times to get all this hedge done. This is how the raspberries make runners. So I've got this original plant, and then this root has run along and started a new plant. So you can see how quickly it can regenerate. So you know, you start with a few raspberries and then you got loads of them. So what I can do is, this is now 2 plants. So if I cut through the connecting roots, now I've got the original plant and a new young plant. We're going to get a lot of raspberries. You don't need many. They're almost as prolific as strawberries. Once you've got them, you got them for life. Now I've put in the raspberries, and for the most part these stones have not been a problem, because in places I've had to put it close to the stones, but that's more or less where the edge of the border is. But then those ones are too far in, and if you look at this raspberry, the stones should be more or less to the side of it, but they're way over there. So I don't know who's put these in, but they've slipped. I mean, everything else on this allotment is cockeyed, so why should this be any different? So I'll have to dig these 2 out, and then I can put the raspberries, because it goes in line, and then where it should be there's a dirty great stone, and that's in the right way as well, so those 2 have got to come out. It took a bit of digging to loosen these stones so I could lever them out. Right, that's those 2 done. Right, so that one's done. Same thing with this one. Right, that's another one. So following the line of those raspberries, I can plant more or less where the stones were. Nothing's ever simple on this plot. Nothing's ever simple. Right, these raspberries are mixed in with the roots of this currant bush. So until I'm ready to move the currant bush into the other plot, I'm not going to touch these, because I don't want to disturb the roots of the currant bush until I'm ready to move it. And there's another one here, but it's sort of fallen over and got messed up, but it's still looks like it might be alive. There's things like bits of paving slabs and things here, and I was digging out this raspberry bush, and this huge great piece of pipe turned up. Managed to dig it up, but I mean, why would anybody bury these things? When it was way down, lying flat. This big stone was in the way because it's in the line between that one and this one, but it was huge, and I didn't want to spend half an hour digging it out, so put the raspberry to the side of it. It'll be alright, because once it grows it's not going to be a problem, and the border is going to be just a little bit to the side of it, so it's not going to really cause a problem. But then I was trying to dig the next one, and my fork kept hitting stone, and I couldn't find the edge of any of the stones. And then when I tried to lift, and there's a huge one, you can see as I raise the fork, the edge is now where the top of the screen is, and it's huge, and it's about 10-15 centimeters down, buried. So that's going to be like a 10-minute job digging that out. Well, I've scraped the top of it and managed to dig out the soil that was on top of it, and it's massive. It's a good 40 centimeters, 50 centimeters if you go from corner to corner. And oh my god, underneath it, bindweed and carpet. Oh god, I've got to the carpet again. Don't like that. Well, I've pulled that first piece of carpet out, and underneath it is another piece of carpet under about 10 centimeters of soil. Absolute nightmare. I could certainly happily strangle a person who put this carpet down. And, you know, it goes all the way along. It goes all the way along. I can lift it in sections and cut it, but I managed to clear a bit out, but it's a bloody nightmare. And it's not just soil, it's all the roots and stuff, and it just is hard going. You can't get forking under it, and the shovel struggles. You can see how much soil and detritus is under this thing, and then you find things like bits of wire and string and all sorts of rubbish. It's never entered this thing. People say, oh, just cut it. The thing is, standing like with this carpet that's been full of roots and mud and all sorts, takes a bit of effort to get that cut. There's something even worse down there, I think. I managed to unroll this long piece. I folded it over, but it was all the way along. You can see how far down it was buried. Absolute nightmare. And I found some broken glass in here as well. So not only is there a stone, 2 layers of carpet, and then there's broken glass. My goodness. I've had a rethink about the carpet that's along this edge. Yesterday I was swearing and getting a bit angry, but then I thought about it, and I've got 19 raspberries along this edge, so that will do for this plot. When I made the original plan, obviously I only had one plot, and I thought, well, that's what I'll do, I'll put all the raspberries along this edge. But as I've got another plot, I can move the raspberries onto one of the beds on that plot and put things that are in containers along this hedge. So I've got quite a few things like Jerusalem artichokes and potatoes and things that need to go in containers anyway, so this would be ideal. And they're not going to shade out this side in winter, obviously, because they'll be gone. and in the summer the sun is high in the sky, so they're not going to shade this. And you know, she had hedges up to there and she never complained, so I don't think that's going to be a problem, having a few tall plants like globe artichokes along this edge. So that's what I'm going to do. It took me a long time to lift those 2 bits of carpet, and there's another 10 meters of it. Lifting about a meter of it took me ages, and I really don't want to do my back in doing that. So I'm going to go for plan B, put containers along this edge, and with 1920 raspberry plants along this edge, that's plenty for this plot, and I'll put the rest in one of the beds on the other plot. Now that the rains have watered these in, I can now mulch the raspberries. And pour the mulch around the raspberry, but obviously try and not to get it too close. So leave a little bit of a gap. Just scrape away a little bit so it's not actually touching the raspberry again, and that's all it needs. I've mulched all the raspberries, good 10 centimeters around each of the raspberries, and we get to this point, that's where the carpet starts. I mean, this is the stuff I took up where those were, but all this other stuff is carpet. That's where it starts, and it goes all the way along. So we're going to put containers all the way along here. Well, that job is partially done. I'll move the other raspberries later, so what I'm going to do is dig them up, put them in pots till I have the beds on the other plot ready for them. So goodbye for now, and come back soon.